welcome to the Good Talk Podcast. We remind you of the joy of life, the love of God, and the possibilities that lie ahead. Pete and Jordyn here.
Hello.
Episode 26. I quit labeling people.
Yep. So we're in our I Quit series. This is our fourth one.
Yeah, maybe the last.
Maybe the last. Just depends on what we're feeling.
Just depends. I'm excited about talking about labeling people because I'm actually going to wrap up today by telling one of my favorite stories of all time.
Ooh, I don't think I know the story. Well, I'm sure I know it, but I don't know which story you're going to tell.
And like, it's one of those things that forever has shaped my life. And like, just the idea of anything's possible.
Oh, I know which one you're going to tell.
Okay.
That's so good. So I quit labeling people, kind of wrapped around like judgment and how we just kind of assess people at a glance. But before that, I have a segment.
Oh, I love segments.
I'm bringing
Is it
back
a fun
some
segment?
Yes, this is not a sad segment. I don't think we do sad segments. Okay, so this is going to be favorite things, our favorite things segment. Not that I don't know that you care, but it's fun to talk about. And I always love hearing people tell me their favorite things, just because it helps me learn and know what to buy and all of the things.
Okay.
So
Favorite things.
So we're going to do our favorite book right now.
Okay.
Favorite podcast episode right now, or just podcasts in general. And then our favorite, product, like something you're using.
All right. So favorite was first book?
We can start with book.
Okay. What's your favorite book right now?
Well, okay, I have to admit and say I have not been a good student of books lately. But I figured I would start with like one of my favorite books that I've read probably 3 times, and it's Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert.
That's a good one.
It is amazing. Big Magic. It's really like, it's super creative, right? And she's a creative, and she just is an incredible thought leader in this, but she just is, it's all about how do you live more creatively? How do you like find ideas, how they find you? It's kind of like a little like floaty, but it's so good.
Yeah, it's a great
so
one.
good. You read it, and if you ever need to be inspired, if you're like, I just feel like I'm in a blah like state with my creativity or with my inspiration, that book is amazing.
I might need to reread it.
What's yours?
Right now, my favorite book I'm reading like 3 different ones, but it's a book by a guy named Ryan Holiday called Lives of the Stoics. And it's all about...
Lives of the Stoics?
Yeah, Lives of the Stoics. Lives of the Stoics. And it's just kind of about these early philosophers and kind of about their life, not just some of their like philosophy, but their actual lives and how they lived their life. Really good. Very interesting.
Okay. How about podcast episode? You listen to a lot of podcasts.
I do. My favorite one this week, one of my regular podcasts I listen to is called Business Made Simple by Donald Miller. Mm-hmm. And he had an episode, I think he hands down is one of the best interviewers he is a phenomenal interviewer.
He's really good.
But he interviewed a lady named Allie Fallon. Who's kind of a professional writer, kind of helps people, a writing coach actually. And the whole episode was about the power of you writing your own story. And one of the big things about why they were talking about the power behind writing your own story is that one of the huge benefits is you see how far you've come. Like you get to celebrate the transformation that's happened that often we just kind of overlook because we kind of see our lives every day. But when you look at your story, it's like, wow, look at some of the stuff I've overcome.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And I think I remember you telling me this on our walk the other day, but it also helps you understand how you talk to yourself.
Yes.
And how you describe your own story. And if you're overly critical when you write your story, you're like, I would never want to read a story like this. Yep. So just like reframing, that's really good. Mine, I'm a huge Brene Brown fan. She has a podcast called Unlocking Us. If you're not living under a rock, you've probably heard of it. But she did an interview with these 2 doctors. They're married. Their names are John and Julie Gottman. And they are these like relationship experts. And they've done tons and tons of research around
They're brilliant.
relationships. They are. And their episode was called What Makes Love Last. But they have found a way to kind of like make certain things about relationships success objective. Because, everything we can say with relationships is like, oh, well, that's hard. You don't know us, or you don't know this, or there's so many elements going into it. And there are, but they have found this like kind of I don't want to say a equation, but they have lots of research in place that show, with couples who engage in these things and how they do that, they can prove with like an over 90% accuracy the success of a relationship, if it's going to end well or not. They have something called the 4 pillars, the 4 horsemen.
Yes.
The 4 horsemen.
Yep.
And it's like content, critique, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And all of those things, how couples handle those 4 things in their day-to-day
is a predictor
of the success of their relationship.
So
it's just it was really interesting. I enjoyed like hearing someone take it from like a scientific standpoint, where you're like, okay, because so much of relationship, you feel like, I don't know, like how would anyone know how to help us? But those things, the fact that they've done so many studies and had so many focus groups and they've seen the success of over 90%, 9% is like an incredible predictor in science, right? But to go to 90 and say we have, seen this in 90% and have that much success rate, it's really interesting. I think you should check it out.
That's cool. Yeah. I love that.
Third one is favorite product.
Favorite product. I know mine. It's not a product. Well, is food a product? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Pepperoncinis. I just found that Kroger has their own brand of pepperoncinis, and I have a salad every day for lunch, and I've been putting those on my salad, and it's like just sprucing it up. I love it. Pepperoncinis.
Pepperoncinis. What you should know is there have always been pepperoncinis in the grocery, but Pete Wilson
I just found them.
Does not buy name brands. So the fact that there is a
I do,
Kroger
but if there's
brand,
a Kroger version of it, I'm like, I am down with that. Because the regular pepperoncinis, like the brand pepperoncinis, are expensive.
I'm going to do a whole segment on things you should not buy that are not name brand.
Really? Yeah. Would you put pepperoncinis on that?
No, but I'd put other things you buy on that list.
Okay.
We'll do that at another
Toilet
time.
Paper?
Probably. Yeah. Okay, mine is this cleaner, y'all. I'm obsessed with it. Actually, I just thought of another one. Okay, I'll have to use that for another favorite things, but let's just do this one. It is a carpet cleaner / upholstery cleaner / like clothes, if you get something on your clothes or your white tennis shoes. It's called Folex. This is not an ad, but you guys, it is the best thing. Some of you already know about it. A lot of you already know about it. I just discovered it in the past year because I was walking through Lowe's during COVID and I was like, wonder what this is. And I've shown it to you. You spray and on a stain or on a dirt scuff or something. And it literally, I watch it rise to the surface. Am I lying? You're making a face.
You've shown it to me. I've tried to use the same product that hasn't gotten the same results from me.
Okay, well, you just pooped on my parade. But anyways, it is the best thing in the world.
You pooped on my pepperoncinis, so.
It's true. But anyway, it's really good. Folex, Folex. My whole family uses it. My friends use it because I'm obsessed with it.
This sounds like such a commercial,
I know.
But it's not.
It's not a commercial. Don't come at me if it doesn't get your poop stains out from your dogs. But I love it. It's so good. Okay, those are our favorite things. And we're going to do that occasionally just because it changes all the time.
Yeah. I love that. So, hey, something else real quick before we dive into this. I just put together a new resource. First time in a long time I've written anything like this, and we're calling it 30 Days of Good. And what I did is I just wrote 30 days worth of kind of inspirational thoughts.
Helping you become the best version of you, right?
Yeah. And so it's kind of got a quote, some inspirational thoughts to kind of set up your day. I hope to really encourage you and give you hope. And then we put a place on there for, I gave you some questions to kind of start your day to prompt some journaling for you. And a place for gratitude.
Yep, because you guys know Pete Wilson is a gratitude fan.
I'm all about it.
So, helping them on that journey of gratitude and myself. Yeah.
So it's 30 Days of Good. There's only one way that you can actually get this.
Yes.
What are we calling it? Daily? What do you call it?
Our journal?
Journal,
the
30-day journal, yeah. The only way you can get it is by leaving a review for this podcast.
Yeah.
So if you've already left a review, that's fine. Go take a picture of it and email it to us at
info@theplaceforgood.com. So our website is The Place for Good, but the email is info@theplaceforgood.com. So just email that, take a picture, put it your subject line that it's for your review.
And we'll send you the 30 Days of Good.
30 Days of Good.
If you haven't left a review, then just leave a review, take a picture of that, email it at info@theplaceforgood.com.
Yeah.
I know our website. And same thing. We'll send you 30 days of good.
Right. So you click the little, this is for iTunes, you guys. Sorry if you're listening on other places. If you listen on other places, still go to iTunes, do this if you want the journal. But anyway, it's, you click on the little stars. I have to help my mom with this because I was like, click the stars and then write the review. So that would be really awesome, you guys. This is super helpful for us. It is a digital download. So it's, you can pull it up on your phone or your laptop or your iPad. You can even print it out. We would encourage that. But so you'll get it in an email if you guys send us that.
30 days of good. It is a great way to start your day.
Oh, it's great. Let's do it. Let's do it together.
Okay. That'll be fun.
30
days of good.
All right. So I quit labeling people.
Yes. Can I give you background real quick on kind of how I landed on this? All right. So I was recently talking to a friend, and she's on staff at a church. If you've ever been on staff at a church, or you're currently on staff at a church, like Easter is a big deal. And her husband on Easter Sunday, that afternoon, were looking through the church's social media feed, right, on Instagram. And they saw this comment from somebody that was like, haven't been to church in a long time. I came today. It was awesome. We'll be back. And they looked at the little, that little thumbnail picture, like, she looks familiar. They click on it, and it's their neighbor. Now, what was really interesting about this to them was their neighbor was someone that they've always kind of thought, I don't know exactly how long they've lived next to him, but long enough to say, that family is weird. Even more specifically, that lady is weird. And so I don't think they'd had very many conversations with the lady at all. They were like, she's just antisocial, well, they still sent a message to that lady saying, hey, we're your neighbor. We're actually on staff at that church. We're so glad you were there. And then the lady, anyway, they go back and forth, and they discover that this lady has some serious issues. She really does. She's going through some mental things. And they realize it's not that she's just antisocial. Like,
she's sick.
She's sick. She's really struggling with some stuff. And, they instantly felt that guilt that we all do when we make an assumption about somebody and we find out, wait, there's more going on here.
Yeah.
And we were just having that story, and it reminded me of, oh my gosh, how many times have I done that exact same thing? It's like it's like almost daily. Like, I find myself unknowingly judging people, and I say unknowingly because I don't usually take the time to learn who they really are or what they're going through. Instead, I just slap a label on them based on what I can see on the outside.
It's kind of subconscious.
Yes. Yeah. So it becomes like, if she's quiet, that means that she's not friendly. If they cut you off in traffic, it means they're a jerk. If she's always smiling, laughing, she's shallow and has a perfect life. If he refuses to ever make eye contact with you, he's hiding something. If they get in your way at the grocery store and they seem oblivious to what's going on around them, they're an idiot. But, right, what if you knew their stories? What if you could actually hear their thoughts, right? Instead, what if it's she's quiet because it's the anniversary of her dad's death and she's trying not to burst into tears? They cut you off in traffic because they just heard about a family member who was in a car accident and they're rushing to the emergency room. She's always smiling and laughing, but in reality, it's a complete cover-up for the pain that she's going through because she feels like her marriage is about to end. Maybe he refuses to make eye contact with you because he suffers from PTSD and he's afraid of letting you see the real him, right? Maybe they're completely oblivious to you in the grocery store aisle because 30 minutes ago they were served divorce papers, right? Like, what if you knew all that, right? How would you act? How would it change the way that you interact with them? Would you be more gracious? Would you be more kind? Would you be more loving? Would you be less judgmental and harsh?
Because we've all been one of those people before.
Yes.
Like just wishing someone knew why we were that way, and you don't have the energy, heart, anything to communicate it. Like, we so quickly look and judge and categorize when we've all really been on the other side of that coin, just wishing someone would know, please don't put me in a category, or please don't assume this, or please don't judge me by that interaction because of all the things you're going through. So if you can switch that and think we've all been there, what you wish people would treat you like regardless.
Yep. Yeah, there's a great quote I saw this week from Mother Teresa where she said, "If you judge people, you have no time to love them." And I think it's so for me, it's more than just not making an assumption about what's going on in their life, or it's more than just not judging them. It's that I'm often, because I'm judging them, I'm missing an opportunity to love them.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I kind of have to get straightened out because, one of the things that so fascinates me about the life of Jesus was this area of his life, right? He saw through the external labels that had been assigned to people, and when you look at the way that he responded to them, you understand. Like he looked through that external label to the inside, and he saw it, his interactions with people, not as opportunities to judge them, but as opportunities to actually love them.
Yeah.
So, there's one time he runs into this woman. She's been labeled a sinful woman. We don't even know exactly what she did, right? She's just labeled a sinful woman. Nobody wants to be around her. He dines with her. Another time he runs into somebody who was labeled as the possessed man. That's really all that we know about him. We know the community actually tried to chain this dude up. That's how crazy they thought he was. Jesus heals him.
Yeah.
There's another time he interacts with somebody that's been labeled as a tax collector, which means that they're kind of greedy and arrogant.
Or the prostitute when he washes her feet.
Yeah, right. And in every single case, he sees through whatever the external label is that's been assigned to that person, and he treats them as a human being. And, again, there can be labels: a sinner, a crazy, or greedy. He saw past it, and what he saw was just broken humanity. And what we often would see as a source of frustration, he saw as an opportunity to love.
It's really good.
And I just think that's one of the things that just fascinates me about Jesus. And honestly, something I'd like to see happen a lot more in my life, to see past the external, honestly obvious label that sometimes are on people and see beyond that and know that there's a lot more going on.
Yeah.
So I'll throw this out there. I think there's 3 things that we could do that would be helpful. The first is understanding that we really do have no clue.
Right.
We have no clue. Like I've learned that firsthand. No matter how someone looks or acts, you truly never know what's happening in their life, do you?
No. Yeah. I don't think you really totally know that until you go through it yourself, right? Would you say that? I mean, there's some obvious things, but I think you don't understand the blank stares or the emptiness until you've been that. And you can see it in people, right? And I'm not saying it's impossible if you haven't done that, but it's the empathy needed to see those pain moments. I think you have to kind of sometimes use your own past to see that in other people.
Yeah. Pain is hidden in some unusual places in people's life, and it comes out in lots of different ways. And we're always trying to put these pieces of the puzzle together in our mind for why people act certain ways that they act. But guess what? It's not our puzzle to put together, right? The reality is no matter how you try to put those puzzle pieces together, you're missing some pieces of the puzzle because you don't know the whole story. Yeah. And I think assumptions in general are very damaging to relationships, right? So when you assume that your spouse won't care about you sharing what's really going on in your heart, that's detrimental to the relationship. When you assume that your friend's angry with you, even though maybe they're not, that's detrimental to the relationship. When you assume that person would never want to go to lunch with you, so you don't ask them, it's detrimental to that relationship. And I think relationships in general are already tough enough. Don't complicate them with a bunch of assumptions because that's a waste of your time and your energy. Just right off the bat, understand we have no clue.
Yeah.
We have no clue.
Yep.
Second thing I'd say is give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Just give them the benefit of the doubt. Whenever you get frustrated or annoyed with someone's actions, remind yourself again, you don't know what's going on in their life. Take a big, deep breath. Don't take it personally, right? Which is really the problem.
Yeah, I think that's what I struggle with.
We take it personally.
Yeah.
You think that lady in the grocery store that's blocking access to the cheese, right? You think,
Okay.
I might be using a real life example. I might be, but you almost feel like in that moment, like they're doing this on purpose. They are blocking me from the cheese, so I can't get to the cheese I need.
Do you have to tell this? I feel like you have to tell the story now, y'all. Okay, whatever. My pregnant hormones. One day there was a lady in her cart in the cheese aisle of all places, which. That's my aisle.
Yeah.
Please step aside. No, they took up the whole width of the cheese aisle with her cart and probably her sweet daughter. I don't know, but they were having a discussion of novel proportions about which cheese they should get. And I had waited about 15 seconds. That's a long time to stand.
And then you elbowed her. And
I did not.
Yeah,
I just said, excuse me, but that's just so you have context. For
yeah. No. I'm with you. I'm not judging you. I wasn't really meaning for you to tell that whole story.
Well,
but
you have to. You can't just say I was in the cheese aisle and I took down an old lady.
But no, we do. Like when someone cuts me off in traffic, I'm like, they're doing that on purpose. Like they're trying to slow me down and keep me from going. And 99.9% of the time, it's not personal.
No.
So again, what would it look like to realize you have no clue? And secondly, just give them the benefit of the doubt.
That's hard to do, and I think that's where I struggle the most because I take it personally.
Yeah,
and I think if you're in a season as a person, if you're in a season where you're living with a lot of shame or guilt about something, you take everything personally. You think every interaction is against you, and it has something to do with you, and it doesn't.
That's good, Jordyn.
So I think just being aware of your own mental state when you're assessing those things is really helpful because a lot of times, like we've said on this podcast, the way someone else treats you is not about you most of the time. So I just think it just really, it's also taking that into account of where am I mentally.
Yep. Give them the benefit of the doubt because I think the vast majority of people are doing the best they can.
Yeah.
Right? They're doing the best they can in that moment. And you might be thinking, well, you could do better. Well, maybe so, but maybe the reality is that, again, maybe they just got served divorce papers. Maybe they just found out they have cancer. Mm-hmm. Maybe their kids are driving them absolutely bonkers and they're so frustrated they don't know what they're going to do. So my guess is they probably are doing the best they can in that moment. And if we can accept that, like, it just makes life easier. And I know some of you are listening to this right now and you're pushing back and saying, yeah, but maybe they're not. Maybe they are just a jerk. Maybe so. But it's still wasted energy.
Yeah. Even if they are a jerk, what different action would you take that makes you a healthier person?
It gets you nowhere. It changes nothing. Like, it just doesn't. You're going to be better off if you just, number one, remember that you really don't know. Number two, give them the benefit of the doubt because they're probably trying the best they can.
Yeah. It goes back to that thing that we've said, and probably in a couple episodes where we talked about they are treating me as well as they are able.
Yes.
As well as they're able. And sometimes as well as someone is able is not up to your standards, but it's still, it's as best that they can. So that's a really humanizing filter that I forget to add a lot of times, but it is so, so helpful to help you sympathize.
Yep. Just remember that next time you're in the cheese aisle.
Your face. I waited 15 seconds.
Here's the third thing. It might not be a coincidence that you meet today, right? That person that you've bumped into that for whatever reason, it feels like they're stealing your joy in that moment. Maybe it's not a coincidence. And I take this back to how Jesus took moments that for most people were an opportunity to just reinforce a label or to get frustrated with somebody. He turned them into opportunities to love. So maybe that interaction, maybe the best you can do in that day is just to keep on walking, right? Yeah. It's just move over in another lane of traffic, Not
honk back and not...
Maybe that's the best you can do. But maybe, just maybe, it's not a coincidence. And maybe there's an opportunity for you to show that person love. Let me tell you this. Okay, I told you I'd tell you one of my favorite stories.
Yes, I'm excited.
So this is years ago, at least 10 years ago. I was with a friend of mine named Ryan. At the time, we were on staff together. And I was speaking in the Dominican Republic. And so we were there. I think we were there a total of like 2.5 days, maybe. And we had some free time when, I wasn't speaking. And so he and I went to the beach. We were just hanging out at the beach and having a good time. And there's this older lady kind of sitting maybe 5-6 feet from us, kind of to the right. who'd we kind of watched, and she kept looking over at us. We're having a good time, we're laughing, and she's reading a book, and she kept looking over our way, and we kind of made the assumption she's ticked, like we're making too much noise on the beach, and I'm thinking, well,
She's
find
reading.
a library, not a beach, lady. But again, I'm making the assumption she's mad. Well, you know me, I'm a people pleaser. So eventually I make my way over to her. I'm like, hey, how's your book? And it turns out she's reading The Shack, is what she's reading.
Which is like a very famous book if you've never heard of The Shack.
Yeah, yeah. And so she's reading the book, and I'm like, oh, I was like, yeah, I've actually read that book. And she's telling me a little bit about it. It's clear from the very beginning, she's not a religious person at all. But we kind of have this conversation. We're talking about the book, and kind of, leads into a conversation about God. She eventually asked me what, we're doing in the Dominican. By this point, Ryan's with me too, and we're just the three of us sitting there on the beach talking. We end up talking to that lady, Sheila, for the next 2 days, like hours and hours. Again, she was, at this time, she's probably 20 years older than us, at least. She's there by herself. She's really struggling. It was a tough conversation at first, especially when we told her what we did, because at the time, Ryan and I are both pastors. She had been abused by a priest when she was little. So she obviously had some barriers, some walls. We ended up, though, having 2 days of some of the most healing conversations. Like, she would say to this day that those 2 days were life-changing for her. They ended up being life-changing for Ryan and I, too, because, I don't know, we just felt like, okay, yeah, we thought we were here in the Dominican to speak at this conference, but it was bigger than that. Like, we really felt like, hey, we were on this beach on this day so that we could have this conversation with this woman who initially we kind of labeled as, a little bit, angry at us, a little bit bitter. And she was some of those things, right? But what we took the time through our conversations to find out is that there's a much bigger story. And we were really able to, I think, help paint a more accurate picture of who God is and what his love is like to her. And it changed her life. Now, that alone is a cool enough story, right? I came back. I actually wrote about that story in one of my first books, because it so impacted me, right? I told that story at a lot of different churches, at my own church. Years go by, I'm still telling the story. I told my boys about this woman, Sheila. Ryan and I had a picture that I still have of a picture that we had taken with her. So I'd show that picture to my boys, and whenever I'd speak, I'd show it. Almost 5 years, actually a little over 5 years later, I'm back in the Dominican Republic. I happen to be staying at the same hotel, and I'm on the same beach that I was on 5 or 6 years ago. And I have my boys with me. And I'm telling the boys about, hey, remember that story I tell about that woman named Sheila? This is the beach where that happened, right? This is the beach where I met her. We're walking along the beach. And on this beach, it's a lot of tourists. So there's those guys that walk along on the beach, and they're handing out these little paper pamphlets, right? About, go scuba diving, go do this, go do that. Well, we took one of those pieces of paper. One of the boys had taken one of the pieces of paper, and the wind that day is crazy. The wind blows the piece of paper out of one of my boys' hands. So we go chasing the piece of paper. We're kind of making a game out of it, trying to catch up with it and jump on it. We chase this piece of paper easily 1,000 yards down the beach. And at one point, it starts to kind of blow up a little bit. I remember jumping on that piece of paper. I jump on the piece of paper. I look up, and I'm literally on the beach standing in front of a chair, and there's a woman sitting in a chair. And I look up, and I'm like, she looks so familiar. I'm like, that's Sheila. I was like, Sheila? And she was like, Pete? And she, again, this woman, she's not from the Dominican. She's not from the U.S. She's from Toronto. Happens to be back on that same beach. A different place. She was at a different place, a different hotel this time, but same beach.
Same time as you.
Over 5 years later, same time as me. I chase a piece of paper that lands next to her, jump on the piece of paper. It's like it almost led me to her. And we have another just unbelievable, moment where I get to introduce her to my boys. They got a picture with Sheila, and it's because they had heard all these, crazy stories about her. And it's like, she was like, I needed this. Like, I needed this reminder of God's love for me. And I was like, I needed this reminder.
Yeah.
I needed this reminder of like that God can orchestrate anything at any time. And I have tried to hold on to that moment for me because, and that's a big moment, right? That's a really fun story to tell. But I just think that so many of the moments in our life where our life intersects with somebody else's life is not an accident. It's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
And if you open your eyes, like if you'll take the time to just remember like that you really don't have a clue, and to give everyone the benefit of the doubt because maybe something else is going on. Maybe ask them some questions. Maybe treat them kindly. You have no idea what that might lead to.
It's really good. I love that.
It's one of my favorite stories.
Such a cool story.
I still can't believe it. And if I were listening to this podcast right now and somebody else was telling this story, I'd be like,
whatever. Yeah.
I don't believe it.
Yeah.
But it's true.
I love that. There's ways to do that in your normal life without like having to jump on a piece of paper. I know that there's been times where, you might come across somebody that works at the grocery or you go through a drive-through and they're just down. Go back, like engage with them and then go back and be like, hey, I got you this chocolate bar. Why don't you have a better day? I've gone through one time, I've only done this one time, and this is not to say props to Jordyn, but it's an example of how you can do this in small scale. I went through a drive-through, as I do. I went through a drive-through and the lady just was like not nice and she was having a bad day, and she actually vocalized. She was like, this day has been horrible. I've been up since such and such. So then I went back through and I went to the gas station and went through and I got her I don't even know what she liked. I just got chocolates and a soda and just brought it back through to her. And, like it's little things. And I don't know, she might have, thought I was a crazy person after I left. But still, it's like that igniting, giving someone the chance to engage you differently, or just plain showing them love regardless of how they engage you.
And you could have written her off and just labeled her as grumpy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just kind of fun, y'all. It's kind of fun to have that lightness about you to say, how can I engage with people in a way that's loving, and giving people the benefit of the doubt. It's not always easy. And it always, a lot of times it mirrors how you are emotionally in the moment, but it's really good. I love all that.
Every single person you come in contact with, every single person you lock eyes with needs healing, right? They all have hidden pain, and you might be a part of bringing about a little bit of healing in their life. So that's it.
I love it.
And back to the 30 days of good that we just talked about. For me, one of the ways that kind of helps me live with my eyes wide open to those realities is starting my day in the right mindset.
Yeah.
That's why good. I love this 30 days of good. Start your morning off with it. It's a little bit of inspiration, a few questions to kind of get your mind and heart going, an opportunity to write down some things you're grateful for. And then you kind of start your day with a mindset that can really unlock a bunch of things for your day.
And 5 to 10 minutes can change the whole outlook of your whole day.
Yep. So just take a picture of your review.
You can take like a screenshot or take a picture. Just send it to our email, info@theplaceforgood.com. If you forget that and you follow us on socials, you can also just send us a picture on our DMs and social media, Instagram.
And when you send us that, if you have time, tell us how things are going. We love hearing you guys' stories. We love to hear what's going on in your life. So if you get a minute, you can just send the picture and we'll send you the 30 days of good. But if you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on in your life, we'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
It's fun, this little community that's
kind of
forming.
I love it. It's a good community.
A good community. And this was a good talk.
Good talk.
And you can get 30 days of good. I see what you've done. You are so good at branding.
Okay. Oh, man.
Love it. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he smile on you and be gracious to you. May he show you his favor and give you his peace.